Welcome to the Mystical Motherhood podcast. This is Pritamatma. I have been on a break from creating podcasts only because I've been going through this amazing heart-opening experience, which I discuss in this podcast with my guest today, Katerina. And we go deeply into part of the process of my newest book, Alchemy of Becoming, available on Amazon. But as the heart opens, the parts of your identity will collapse, and also the parts of that need to always be doing and in the mind need to leave, and they don't exist anymore. And so when there's nothing to do, you have to kind of re-identify who you are in those moments of silence. And what is needed on the planet right now is more humans, specifically more women, in their heart center, so that we can draw everyone back out of the fear of the mind. And in order for you to get there, you have to go through the process of leaving behind your conditioning and leaving behind the pain of your past and the story you tell. And so sometimes for people to awaken, not sometimes, always, there has to be a contrast, maybe a lot of money or not enough money, or a lot of fear has to occur, or a chaos, in order for people to awaken to something's not right. And that's what's happening on the planet. And you have this as an opportunity to learn who you really are and to let go of all of these outside identities that are telling you, what you should do and what you shouldn't do, and learn how to get into that heart center. So I talk a lot about that during this podcast with my guest, and steps you can take in your own life to find possibly some peace. All of my books, Mystical Motherhood, Fertile, and Alchemy of Becoming, are available on Amazon. You can reach out to me on my website at www.mysticalmotherhood.com. If you have any questions, you can also DM me or send me a private message on Instagram at Mystical Motherhood. And I'd love to work with you, and you can find out how to work with me privately on my website, Mystical Motherhood. Thanks so much. I hope you enjoyed this podcast, and I'll be back.
Like when I read your energy, it's like you're trying to walk forward, but then there's this wall, and you're like either hitting against it or you're sliding up against on the left side. And you're so close to like getting past this. What's going on?
That's exactly how I feel. It's exactly how I feel. So that's where, I've made strides and moves. I've sold my house.
What's going on in your whole life? Like what are the steps of like, where are you and where are you in the awakening process, the heart opening process?
The heart opening process, it's honestly the whole craziest thing, because I feel like there's chaos, there's tornadoes everywhere, and I'm the calmest I've ever been. But there's these waves of crazy emotions, where I feel like I'm trying to run towards, like, I see it, I feel it, the serenity, the peacefulness. I see it and I feel it, and I'm trying to go towards that path and like restart my life and everything. And then I have these crazy waves of emotions and feelings. And then I also have my ex-husband, soon to be now, constantly like pulling me back or just reaching out and it's just like, it's the same cycle. I see it, but it is hard because we spent almost 14 years together, and it's just like at points it's like confusing. And then sometimes I wonder, I'm like, am I just making like a bigger, like, it seems like whatever happened, the explosion that happened between us, like, isn't as big as I'm making, because I'm making it bigger than it should be.
Okay. And I hear that. Okay.
Yeah.
So there's a part of you that keeps walking into the same wall, which is him.
Yeah.
And you're worried that you made a mistake by divorcing him.
So I'm not, and I question myself because at times I'm like, no, like, I know the person he is, and it's a blessing in disguise because he has a completely different path from me. And I see that. And I know he's still not ready to give me the stability and the love that I need. He's still not ready, even all of, and I think it's just my mind constantly pulling me back to something just because it was comfortable and just because that's what I know,
So a few things. So, okay. Women have the power to create anything they want. And so if there's a programming inside of you, and you want to end something, or now this isn't to say that you made a mistake, just so you're clear. Okay. I'm just explaining this so that you can see your own behaviors as you move into new relationships.
Yes.
And how we have the ability to create or destroy the thing. And it's pretty profound. So if you have, in my book, I discussed the original wound, right? And as everyone on this planet is going to go through the heart opening process, and their story has to disintegrate. And the story is the thought-based process, right? That we recreate over and over and over again. Because it's so normal. And even the way that you're even the way that he's reaching out to you, I bet it's very similar to the story, your story with him. Right?
Yes. Yes.
And we don't even need to go into it, but it's the story. It's the creation of the chaos, constant chaos, right? And so it's really, really hard to get out of the mind and the chaos because you're conditioned to do that. You're conditioned to a certain frequency your whole life, right? So it's really hard to get into the heart. But there's so much I'm going to explain about this. And hopefully by the end, it'll make some sense. Because you can't get into the heart through the thoughts. It's only through the being. It's only through the feeling. It's only through those emotions, which you brought up before. And as you go through the heart opening process, you are, and everyone is, whether they're aware of it or not. And some are going faster, and some will have to really, really go through a shit show to get there. But it's the feelings that get you there. So it's the crying, it's the emotions. And so as women, we're very powerful creatures. And okay, I kind of skipped the part I wanted to go into. First off, before I go into the heart opening process is what you're going through. I want to talk about the power you have as a woman to create a good relationship or a bad relationship as you end this with him, and also as you start a new one. Right?
Yeah.
So you have the power to make that man into anything you want. So you could be dating a new guy, and then you could kind of like your old husband, right? And then as a result of that, you'll make the new guy into a monster in order to repeat the pattern with him.
Exactly. Yeah.
And you're doing that because your conditioning makes it possible to create a story. And then what you'll do is you'll reach out to all of your friends and all of the psychics and all the people in your life, and they're going to confirm that story for you.
Right. And
you're going to create the whole story again, because that's the conditioning. That's the program you're running. And whatever that program is what you, and then because of that, because you're so powerful, because the feminine has so much power, the men will respond to what you want them to be. And I'm not saying that some men aren't assholes and some women aren't assholes, right? They straight up are.
Right.
But you have so much power in you that you can create that man to be a saint or a sinner. You can amplify the good or the bad. And you can make your story happen. Are you doing that?
I am doing it. And it's funny you said that because obviously I am in a relationship, and honestly, it's nothing I let it just flow, and it's flowed organically, but I see myself, and I've noticed this, I'm not self-sabotaging, but in a sense, I'm comparing and trying to change this, change that. And it's I've never been this person, and I can't do this, I got caught up in all these crazy emotions, sometimes like I will sometimes a rage of emotions of like just sadness and anger come over. And it's just like all of a sudden I'm like crying, and I'm also in this whole process of, my ex-husband and I lost my job because of him, because of what we were going through. And like I was like, working, I guess what I thought was on us, and, in his mind, it wasn't. I lost my job because of him. So the other frustration part is like, and I'm so close, Chelsea, like I've never had a hard time like finding a really good job, like very stable, I've always had the great like salary, blah, blah, blah. I don't know. And I was like, there's a block here. And I was like, I can feel it. Like I'm so close to something, but I need to just understand how to just like fully let go.
So a few things are happening, and it's all, I wrote about it in this book because it's exactly what is happening on the planet in so many ways, in short like ways. Okay. Darkness. This is the broader aspect of the matrix. Darkness is so powerful right now. And the way that darkness works is it separates and it creates the deepest, darkest fear. Now, this chaos that's happening in your own life, you own that. That's all yours, right? But darkness likes to separate. And especially the most powerful thing to separate is the man and the woman.
Right.
And what I have come to realize I actually stopped doing podcasts and I like took a break because I realized so much in the last couple of months, almost the most profound realization of my whole life ever. And it's this: because women are not in their heart, we are naturally the only creatures on this planet that should be in our hearts. And because we're not in our hearts, we're not pulling men into their hearts. They don't really have the capability that we do. So what we've done in our world, if we've gone out and tried to become a man, and we are so glorified for that, and that man part of us does. And I was, and I'm changing, the epitome of that, an example of that. So constantly another degree, another job, like another check on my resume, another volunteer experience, like another, teacher training, another meditation to do, et cetera, et cetera. It was never ending.
Right.
In those things, I was in my mind. I was never in my heart. And so most of women on this planet don't know what it's like to be in their heart. And when you're in your heart, there's nothing to do because I'm feeling it now. And there's not that panic. And so what you're experiencing right now, in order to clear the heart, in order to even be in the heart, you have to feel the emotions of your body.
Yes.
And I talked about this in the book again, but the only way to go into the heart is through feeling, not through thinking. And embodiment, like what the Buddha experienced of its embodiment, is being in the body. So the mind goes flat and the body beams energy and you feel your body again. So you're doing. Just go ahead.
No. And it's funny. Like, it's very interesting because like, I've read that piece in your book and sometimes it doesn't correlate until like you are physically experiencing it. But it's like, sometimes I feel like it's an out of body experience because the amount of just wave of emotions or fear or anxiety that sets in, to some people, they would start reacting and working themselves up more. I, on the other hand, I'm like, this is okay. Like, what am I feeling? And I kind of I've been doing this and have been trying to kind of, focus like my body and mind on that. It's like, what am I feeling and why am I feeling this? Like, is it really what I think it is, or is it just a feeling and let me get through it, And I noticed like just me taking that, obviously, whatever time, it does help me.
Well, what you need to recognize again is it's the conditioning of whatever happened in your childhood to take you out of your heart.
Yeah.
And so your husband or the new boyfriend or your mom or the loss of the job or whatever it is, the chaos will recreate that pain. And so you'll create a story around it. and associate that pain with, you'll blame it on your husband.
Yep.
It has nothing to do with him. And the real awakening is when you realize all the conditioning, all the self-sabotage, all the pain, all the anger is in you. He's just there to help you recreate it.
Yes.
And so once you undo the story and you really decide to do another story, like live another story out, that's the only way you can like be in the heart.
I see. Yeah.
But you have to recognize when you're in your mind, it's like you're out of your body and you're not feeling, and that story runs the thing. The story runs the agenda. When you're in your mind, it's the part of you that's always doing. It's the part of you that always wants to verify your story is correct. Whatever that story is, I can promise you I can find two ways that it's wrong or right. The mind is hilarious. Like you could literally be like, my husband is this, 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 and this. And you'll call 3 friends and they'll confirm it for you. Right?
Yeah.
Or you could change your mind the next minute and he could be a saint. And then you'd be like, oh, but he does this, this, and this.
Yeah.
Because you're telling that story. So you can decide what story you want to tell. And some guys are really an asshole. That's the real story. Just stay away, right? But you can also see their good side and try to make that work and live with the asshole part.
Right, exactly.
But so what I did, and I had to come out of it, is I did have love. And the one that wasn't my father, I kept pushing him away and creating him to be so.
Mm-hmm.
And I was sabotaging love because my heart wasn't fully open to accept it in me. And until I opened my heart, could I be in that love and provide it. Now, if more women go into that feeling and understand that as the mind and the heart are beginning to go in this battle, if you go into the heart, you can then open the heart of a male. But if we continue, so it's very interesting with your career right now, is like the part of you that's very male, that's very mind-based, that is always in the doing, that's always in the money and always in the thing, is now really being challenged.
Very challenged. I've never, ever had this experience in my life. And this is like frustrating,
And the part of you that really wants to be the mother and, that ma, that's also been challenged, right?
Yep.
And so it really comes down to like what my work as I move forward is going to be, is we have been creating the idea of what a woman is based on what men are. And so many people are like, well, if you dress in a beautiful dress and you have 2 kids and you run a whole company and you have a nanny to help you. And I mean, that's the epitome of like what a great female is on the planet. But that woman isn't in her heart.
Exactly.
The woman that's running a huge company, has children, has animals at home, like runs all over, has a husband, like all that stuff. Like she's acting like a man because she's working in a man's world. And what we do when we do that, we're actually contributing to it. We're contributing to what we hate so much because we're not in our heart in a way. We're like creating, and then the men either hate us for it, but we're creating to the greed and the ignorance and the selfishness in the world. Because there's no being now. And so I want you to begin to think like the money will come. It will come, but you're going through a really special time in your life where you have the opportunity and space to open your heart and learn how to be comfortable with doing not as much. And even in that being space, you're wanting to do. Am I right?
Yes, because I've never had so much time with my past. I like see the chaotic mind of, my ex-husband. Like all we did was always do, like run. And that was him. He can't, and I was so programmed to that now I have so much time and I'm just obviously not used to that at all. And it's funny you say that because there's, a lot more just quiet and just time.
And that's being.
Right. And and then in a sense, obviously I love it. And in another sense, I get like a sense of anxiety saying I need to do something. So it's the conditioning of me constantly running and not thinking and not being with myself.
Of course. And it's so painful.
It's painful. I mean, sometimes I feel like I'm going through I'm a psychiatric like treatment or something.
Hmm. And do you remember in my book, I think it was in like chapter 4, I wrote, there's a quote about going from the mind to the heart and you'll feel bipolar.
Yes.
This is what people are going to go through. This is the future. And so what's happening on the planet is going to get way worse. We are at the very beginning of this. People think like, oh, there's going to be an end in sight. Nope. It's going to get like, I don't want to create it or say what's going to happen, but like, it's almost like you have to live in more simplicity and you have to learn to live with less.
Right. Yep.
And it is only our ignorance and our greed that thinks we need more, do. Because when you die, it doesn't come. The only thing you take with you is the serenity within you, right? It's true.
Yes, it's very true.
So do you see how all of this is just set up as the perfect storm to make you just just go into deeper being and you could look at it two ways. You could look at it as complete chaos, or you could just look at it as like, okay, I'm going to live simply.
I 100% see it. And I know the answer. I think I was holding on to something still just to see, because it was just like my fear of conditioning and programming. Like it's the comfortability factor, you know? I was holding on to my past relationship to see like, maybe, you know, we can make this work, blah, blah, blah. And that's the tug of war I've been kind of in. And I actually spoke to him like a couple days ago. And I literally, he didn't even have to say anything. Obviously, he was just talking. But I literally, like, after that conversation, I just feel like a lot of my emotions of like sadness, missing, fear, anxiety, all just kind of melted away because I understand now, and I see clearly that I see the person he is and I see the path he's going on, and it's not meant to be with, you know, me, and it's not good for me because that's not what I need in my life.
Well, he never wanted what you wanted. You really wanted to go into your feminine. You wanted, you know, to be a mother and to go deeply into that love. And, you know, and maybe you were even looking for a child because you were missing love with him. And I would be curious if that desire for the child is still there.
On my end or his end?
Your end.
It definitely still is, but I've let go a lot of the, like the compulsive, you know what I mean? The compulsivity of it. It definitely is. Like, that's something that of course, you know, I want nothing more but just to bring a child into this earth. It's, I just think from, you know, in my past relationship, it was just like it was a compulsive factor on my end and it was never on his. And it turned into, once again, like a perfect storm in a sense.
Mm-hmm. And what about this new guy? Is he anything like the other one, or is he more deeply connected and more in his heart?
No, he's not at all anything like the other one. He's definitely more centered. He's more grounded. He's more connected, a lot, like crazy, a lot more. And he's like, he's a great guy. Like he's like caring, nurturing, but then he's also like, strong, stability. And it's like, and then I look at myself like, this is a great guy. We have a lot in common. We have a great time. It's very like, nobody's pushing anything. It's very organic. And then I see myself like questioning some things and I'm like, am I crazy? Like, am I the one who's crazy? Like what is happening here?
No, this is you recreating the conditioning of, like if your heart's not fully open and you've actually never, I mean, you haven't been in that kind of a healthy relationship. It's very, very hard to accept a good man. And like, I mean, I did the same thing. I was like, no. And then I created that good man to be a monster when he wasn't, because I'm that powerful. And you are too. And all the women do that. Like we do that to our husbands. We do that, like even if it, we can create whatever story we want to create. Now there is a difference if the guy's like, remember, I keep repeating to women, if you are having real abuse or you're having something happen or it's narcissistic, that's real, right? There is and you may need to have somebody come in and help you. But know that if you're like, if you want to like, let's pretend you want to end it with this guy, you'll create a story around it. Yeah. He'll then become that story. And then you could actively reach out to friends and psychics who will confirm your story for you. That's what will happen. Right.
Yep.
And just know that and just know. And then those stories, when you let other people come in and give you massive opinions on either one, like notice how I'm not going to read those men. I'm not going to go into their stuff because I'm going to only read it from my story. But I'm just, you know what I'm saying? Like everybody has their own thing coming through and their own frequency of how to read things. Right.
Exactly. Yeah.
And so like you have to go and you can't read your own life through your mind. It's like it's the first no or yes. It's the kind of like, it's when you're really calm and there's this deep knowing. But if it's off the mind's going to play out whatever it wants to. And that's how you know the difference between the heart and the mind. The mind is a long, pulled out version of just a big thing, right? The heart's very simple. The heart doesn't need much. It's just okay with staying home all day.
Right, exactly.
So my advice to you is as you're going through this heart opening process, reduce the chaos. And so, I mean, it's not even about a lot more meditation with this. And I mean, the meditation can help like a little bit, but like, because most meditations are so mind-based, even Kundalini, it's like, do more things that get you in your body. And sometimes it's going to require like isolation. Yeah. Because the chaos of the world is so much, and the chaos of the world is trying to get you in your mind, and it's trying to get you into the fear-based story. Yep. And the heart doesn't live there, right? And so like the best things for the heart opening process is nature and some forms of isolation from some of the chaos. Because if you already have your own chaos going on, you don't need more heart opening, right? Yeah, no. And it's, it's the isolation is, you literally nailed it, because I've been like, just like, going into the woods and like going to parks where honestly, subconsciously, I'm not even thinking. I just like know that like I'm there, and then I'm like, then it's like 2 hours later and I'm like, oh my God, this was like, it seems like 5 minutes to me. May I recommend something with your career? Yes. Is don't think like a man when you're creating it. I see. Like think in a way that like, what can I live off of? What do I need, and how important is my time? Right. Right. Yeah. And I mean, I think for me, I think I've told you before, and I mentioned on the podcast a lot, Lacey Phillips really helped me understand like what I want. It's very mind-based. Yeah. So it's not really heart-based, but if you're like confused of like how to design a career or how to do that, like that's really helpful. Right. Yeah. But it's like, how important is your time? And maybe right now, so you're not panicked about looking for a career, like looking for the same kind of a job, which you didn't even like your job.
No, I didn't. Right. I
So
know I did.
so it's like, don't try to recreate this. When the world offers you something completely new, don't try I mean, basically you had the relationship that wasn't working and a job you didn't like being at. So then
Yep.
the universe is like, let's take them both away.
Yeah.
And then you're like surprised.
Shocked.
Right. But that's what requires change. And it requires you to get out of your ignorance. It's sometimes really fast changes. It's like, it's like really fast changes. And then you have to drop all your ignorance around finances. And that's all a part of the heart opening process, because we're going to have to live more simply on this planet soon. We are way over consuming. We live way out of our means. For your life, get creative and sit down and think of what it would look like if you were to work a 3-day work week and still make the same amount of money, or let's, it's not impossible. Sometimes the most insane miracles can happen. Just happened to a friend I know. She got fired from her job and then he needed her. He hired her back to work remote 3 days a week for the same amount of money.
Wow.
Yeah. Like she was like, I'm sick of this job. I don't want to work in an office. And then he fired her and she was so scared. Right. And then he needed her so bad. He hired her back to work 3 days a week, anywhere she wanted in the world. Same amount of money. That's a miracle. So those are the kind of stories you need to hear. And you also need to, another thing is you can't design your future based off anything from the past.
Yeah.
So if you want to have this heart opening experience and you want this, it's like this isolation and this unknown is so powerful. Because from that, like you're going to look back on this time and you're going to be like, I really wish if you can trust that the universe is going to provide you what you need, which is so hard. But then you'll look back on this time and be like, why didn't I enjoy that?
Yeah.
Why didn't I enjoy that? I got to go hiking every day.
I get that a lot.
So part of me thinks that it might not be a bad, like really cute stores, like really adorable, like little retail stores.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that are like, you go shopping in them and you're like, oh, this would be so lovely to like sit here and work here and be friendly with these people. Right. That's the kind of place that you may want to work like 20 hours a week just right now so that it takes off the panic.
Yes.
And then you can apply to jobs and so it takes off the panic. It takes off this part of you. And in those stores, you're able to be more.
Exactly.
Because it's not hard work.
No, it's not. It's just the confusion and the panic. And then, that just oversets everything. But
do you see how like working in a little, yes. I'm just seeing that for you, like a cute little store where you can just, get a little bit of money coming in that pays some of the bills and that makes you feel like you're doing something, but you're not doing very much. You can get a coffee after work. You can still go on a hike. You can date this really nice guy. And then the panic is gone.
Right.
So you're not going zero. And then you still have time to look for another job and you're not panicking about it.
I like that idea.
And it's like, that's what's so needed. And that's what I see a lot of people go for a year or so looking for another job while they could be doing something and actually enjoying it while they're, and it's fun. You can meet a lot of people that you could work at a front desk at like a wellness center. There's so many options. And so think of those things as you move forward and let go of the part of you that needs to work like a man did.
Okay. Yeah, I think I've been just like clenching on because it's the idea, and it's just been driving, it's just, there's a lot of just like moving parts. Everything's changing. And at this point, I think I've been trying to just control certain pieces of it, just because everything else, like I was like, I need to start letting go. And this was just like, this was the biggest one, just because of this is all I know, right? Work.
Yeah, you have to let go of all your identity in order to go into your heart. You can't have your identity, and you are identified with your work.
Exactly.
And it just doesn't work. It doesn't work in the heart center. It doesn't work with the new way the consciousness is going to move on the planet. And so all these people that are so identified with money or so identified, it'll crash, or like identified with even like with Rama, like with Guru Jagadai, the identification of that has to crash. Identification of church, the identification of government. These things outside of me create who I am. All has to die away because they're not real. All of it's like, all of it is just, it's an attachment to something that has nothing to do with reality. It's a story. And so the world changed. You came to me years ago saying, I don't like my job. I want to have a baby. This is not working with him. So the universe crashed it all. And now you want to go back to it. But
exactly.
That's the conditioning. That's the programming. And so what I'm telling you here today has to be, I'm going to say, because it's probably the most valuable conversation we've ever had.
Yep.
Because it's you got what you wanted. It didn't come in the way you think it would, but you may be surprised if you get a part-time job and you actually start to date this guy, he may want to have a family with you. And then you have time for that.
Exactly.
So redesign, like it may be that the universe is saying you want a baby, but when you're pregnant and you're having a new baby, you don't want to have a new job. It's actually like the most fertile period to, like, if this were to work with him, I'm not saying to push it. I'm just saying this is what you always kind of wanted.
Yeah.
Why do you want to go back and recreate what wasn't working for you?
Right.
So think of it in like, okay, how can I structure my time while I go deeply into being and I feel all of these feelings? I understand that they're related to my childhood. I unprogram those things and I don't let my mind take control and sabotage me.
Yeah. Exactly. I wish it's like it's been months of just like straight bipolar chaos. And what you just said within like that couple sentences, it's just like a light bulb went. It's like, yeah.
And wouldn't it take so much pressure off if you were just working a little part-time job and you actually just had enough money? Because it's like all that money you had before, like, wait, you had a house that you didn't ever keep. And you had it's like, what do you really need a month?
Exactly. And I don't need a lot. I've noticed that. Like, I don't need a lot.
Right. And then if you actually date this guy or a new guy, then you'll have combined incomes and you may be surprised where he just allows you to be the mother that you've always wanted to be.
Exactly.
And then in order to be a good mother and in order to enjoy it, you really have to go into being. And most of the women I talk with, and I'm starting to luckily get out of it, thank God. Even if they're at home and they're stay-at-home moms, like let's say like your whole life changes and you become a stay-at-home mom.
Yeah.
And if you're not in your heart, you'll be miserable because you'll be recreating the doing in the motherhood. So the women that are like at stay-at-home moms and then they put all the doing on their kids. So they're doing through their children. So they're like, let's put my child in this class. Now we're going to this thing. Now we're going to go do this. Like, I mean, I've done it too, but I mean, I can see it now. It's, so you don't want to transfer the male part of you because we're all very male. Yeah. And in the feminine, it doesn't do much. And I know I'm learning what that is right now. Because I'm going through the same thing of just like having, like I'm not doing my podcast. I'm not taking as many clients. I'm just learning how to be in a different like stream of energy.
Right.
And it's very intense to slow down.
Very intense. It's like, I mean, we're just, it takes a lot and it's just a lot of people don't know how to deal with it.
So, and it's unlearning everything you've ever learned. So if you've always written with your right hand, you now have to learn how to write with your left hand.
And it's just uncomfortable and it's just fresh, it's just that uncomfortability that nobody wants to sit in uncomfortability.
Yeah, but it's just as uncomfortable to be, in a woman's body living like a man and knowing that something is wrong.
Right.
Knowing that it doesn't make any sense to be in an office cubicle all day on running numbers.
Right.
Knowing that doesn't feel right either. And with the feminine, like if we're redefining, like a woman who dresses as a woman and she's so beautiful, but she's always constantly doing and doing and doing and doing, that's not a real woman. The real woman, the Ma energy, doesn't do as much like that. I mean, she's very oceanic, right? She can feel things. And in the heart energy, she's light and she can laugh and she can just be so present and everything's so surprising and everything's so new and so beautiful, right? Because it's always in the present. Like it's always just like, this is so amazing. This is so much fun. But there's also like crying to it. And there's also feeling to it. But most women, we don't even know how to feel anymore because our hearts are closed. And, all the education and all the things we all try to do, it's like, that's all great. And you can all do it, but it's like, we're trying to be men.
Yeah. 100%.
And then we push men out of their manlyhood and then they're becoming frustrated and they're not getting in their heart either. So your homework is seeing how you're trying to recreate your life from the old version, which is not you anymore.
No, it's not. And I think accepting that overall is where, then the next step can be taken.
I mean, would you be comfortable getting a job somewhere so that you feel a little bit safer while you're in your being state? Like, is there a cute shop you can think of that would
I'm gonna, it's funny you say, because like tomorrow I am going to get craniosacral massage done, which is, I've never really done it, but I've been hearing about it. And, it's like this whole like wellness community around like where I just moved to where I didn't even know. So I was like, this is interesting. I want to try it out. But then I also kind of want to see what, this might be like a whole like synchronicity of just like setting it up because there might be something there that I don't even know yet,
Great. And you can ask around and
exactly.
And it may not pay a lot, but you're going to meet new friends and you'll be in a different kind of environment. And it is like, try to find a job for right now that's being in the doing.
Yes.
And that's so that you can go and kind of learn something new and it's fun, right?
Yep.
And then it doesn't have to be your lifetime job, but it can be something you've always wanted to learn in the same kind of category you wanted to head towards.
Exactly. Yeah.
And then you can do it for so long and then you're not in panic as you're looking for something new because that panic only recreates the past and it only recreates scarcity.
You're so right.
Because if you're functioning from a level of scarcity and not from a level of joy, the universe is going to respond to the frequency you're providing.
Which is
so if at least you're like, this is amazing. Like I lost my job. I got rid of my negative relationship. I finally met a good guy. Like I have space in my life to recreate whatever I want to. Without that space, how could you make anything? How could you even know who you are?
Yeah.
You've never had any downtime your whole life.
You're so right. I've never had this. And I think, this is why I reached out because I was like, you don't know who you are.
Yeah. And that's great. Because then you get to start from infancy. And you can be like, whoa, this is, look at it totally different. Don't look at it from panic. Look at it from like, and it's such a good preparation for motherhood because there's when you first have a baby, I failed at this for sure. There's like a year where you can't do anything. I mean, people are like, oh, it's the first few months. It's really a year. Like I'm even more, I could say 3 years, right? But I mean, you can't do anything because the baby can't do anything. You have to
Right.
like lay there and feed the baby all day. And so if you haven't worked with your ability just to be with yourself, it creates a great amount of depression and sadness and intensity.
I never even thought about it that way.
Yeah. So like when the baby comes out in a being form, and for 3 months minimum needs to be in that being. And so most women on the planet aren't prepared for that. I'd say like all women, 95%, 90% are not prepared for that level of just being at home. And so they're rushing, it's like interesting. It's such a fascinating thing. Like they spend so much time wanting that baby their whole life, or not their whole life, but like unconsciously or subconsciously, like one day I'm going to do this. Right. Or they are, like fertility clinics are a very good example of this. So they're in a sense of chaos the whole time, trying to become pregnant.
Yeah.
And then they get pregnant, and then the chaos switches to maintaining the pregnancy, the control.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then after the baby comes, the chaos is just switched to learning to be home with the baby or whatever the thing is, right? So they never change their vibration, though the universe is always offering these different opportunities to do so.
Right.
So each of those different phases of their state of life offers these opportunities to awaken, and they don't take them. So the trying to become pregnant that's why like it's mystical motherhood it's like a lot of people come to me during that period, and that's an opportunity of awakening, and they don't take it, and then they get pregnant and they may have a miscarriage, and there's another opportunity, but they look at it from the state of the mind, which is like all the story. It's the story, right? And it's like, when are you going to let go of your story and see that the universe has just offered you the biggest opportunity in your whole life?
I think, I mean, that's, just knowing my friends, close friends, I see them in motherhood state already. And I can see them, they're just like numb to some point, just because they're just overwhelmed and they don't know how to deal with it.
Because their hearts aren't open.
Exactly.
And if they can go into motherhood with their heart open and not from the level of their mind, which no woman out there really knows how yet. And that's what this book is for, is that heart opening process of like, whatever it is that you're doing in this world, let's all open our hearts. Then we can open the heart of males and then the heart of the children. But you're in the separation phase of the heart opening process. So it's the part, you're separating from your old self.
100%.
Read that part again.
Yeah. Okay.
And it's the part that needs to choose now the parts you want to keep from your old self and the parts you don't want to keep. And then you'll get tested as you let them go. So, like you have to decide, do you want to try the relationship with your ex-husband again? I don't have an opinion on if you should or you shouldn't.
Yeah.
With the new guy, do you want to decide if this is a relationship you want to go into? And if you do, give it your best shot.
Right. Exactly.
But you're going to sabotage both.
Yep.
And also, is there a part of you that's afraid of actually being in relationship? Because if you were in a relationship before where you're not on the same page, or he's having an affair, or it's almost like you're doing the same thing to this guy that the other guy did to you. Mm-hmm. You see that?
Mm-hmm.
And then you think it's your husband, but you're doing it. So isn't that interesting? Because we only can recreate what's inside of us.
Yeah.
And if we're not used to love, or we don't know what that looks like, we're going to push away anything
that comes close to that.
Anything that begins to open our heart or makes us feel loved, attached. It's like the part of you that's unlovable is thinking, who is this guy? Like, what is he going to do? Is he going to hurt me next? And like you have to like, don't even like look at the thoughts, go into the feelings of everything.
Exactly. This was very, very needed. Just to, understand it more and go through the feelings and just get a better grip on what, what's happening.
Well, if you're already going through your own chaos, it's not going to get any easier.
Right.
So don't think some miracle is going to come along. there'll be more chaos throughout the years, especially if your heart's not fully open, because the only way to get through all this chaos on the earth is not through the mind of the polarity. It's only through the heart, because then nothing matters.
Right.
And I hate to say that because people are like, oh, that could be like known as like not caring, but it's sort of just like whatever happens, happens. You can't control it all.
No, you can't. And then I think that's something that has been very hard for me, because all I wanted to do is control everything.
Yeah, I know. But that's the very male. You know, the control and the doing and the greed. I mean, another thing, if women were in their heart, they wouldn't have greed. Like for example, I had a girl call me. She's a stay-at-home mom, and there's frustration in her stay-at-home momness, which she wanted. And then she wanted a bigger house, which she got. And then she's like, I really want, to create a garden and create more art in my house, but I need my husband to make more money. And I said, be careful what you ask for, because then you lose your husband.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And it's so like, if we didn't have greed, and we didn't have the level of ignorance, which ignorance is like all the things that we think we need, or thinking that like these, like the things we're attached to, like in religion or whatever the form of the different things are, our homes are, what we think, right, all these things. We would then like be able to pull men out of their greed, and back into this like different kind of environment where they're just so happy to be in the home. Does this make sense? Like if that woman who says, I just need him to make more money so that we can spend more money. Yeah. Perhaps if she didn't say that, there's more love.
Exactly.
And so we're the ones that are like running it, really, because it's our energy that's like the Ma energy creating it.
We're creating it.
The planet's thinking that we're going to change the planet by becoming exactly how the planet was created is wrong. And another thing that's happening on the planet with the darkness is it's trying to separate everybody. And that separation is coming through I've talked about this on many podcasts, through polarity of thoughts. It's like one story is right and one story's, another person's story is right. And those people fight. And it's the same thing that happens on the internal world, like what's going on with you. Mm-hmm. Like you could say the guy's good or the guy's bad, right? And it's about vaccines. Yep. The vaccine's good or the vaccine's bad, or Trump versus, Biden, all these things. It's just for division. And that's the mind. And so everything that's so intriguing to the mind, these intrigues, they're just trying to take us out of the high frequency that's entering the planet so that we go into fear.
I mean, it makes 100% sense, because, well, just externally, the world that's what's happening. But internally, that's my mind 100%. It's, it's either, oh, but this was really good. This was really good. Oh, but that was bad. This was bad. Do you remember that part? But it's like, oh, but this is, there's always it. And that's where when I texted you, I said, like, I'm really confused. Like, I'm pretty much like, I know my decision and what I did, and I know it's right. But why am I having like these like up and down thoughts and like crazy feelings and crazy like, mood swings all the time?
Are they related to when he texts you?
Yes. Yeah. In a sense, yes and no. And it's like, it's, I guess the link that still holds together is our dogs. Because I took my dogs with me, and, he, reaches out and he's like, hey, can I, just pick up the dogs? I'll have them for.
No.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous.
Yep.
He didn't care about the dogs before.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't that much. He thought they were cute, but he's going through the same thing. You don't need to let him see the dogs. That's stupid. Yep. You can have him go get a new dog.
Right. And it's funny because he also told me, since I'm still in Philadelphia, this is where like my family is and everything, he bought a house in Florida, condo, whatever. And I was like, this might be the best thing, like, for me, right? You know, for both, like, to get as far away as possible and just like really just let each other go.
Then you need to make that choice.
Exactly. And I think I know I already made the choice. I know that all of this is letting, like, I need to just completely cut it. And I've been like, I just need to cut that last cord. And this is just more stability for me to just understand and have this conversation, to just really say, like, I know, like, deep down inside, even my decision now, it's like, yes, like, cut it. It's it. Go. Like, you're at this point, it's, you know, it's going to be the same pattern, cycle. Nothing's going to change.
Just notice, you know, in my book, I write about the self-sabotager. Notice how the sabotager comes back.
Exactly.
And you'll go into your heart, and then the sabotager comes through the mind.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Exactly.
So you're doing everything right. You're in a place of not knowing.
Yes.
I mentioned this in another podcast, but Joe Dispenza is awesome for that. He's another,
yes.
You know, just in that state of like darkness, blackness, not knowing. And like, it's only from this not knowing that you can create something brand new. Because if you recreate something from the past, like, it's just like my book was explaining, if it's recreated from the past, it's based on your past conditioning. It's not based on you or the new you or the heart-based you. It's based on what you knew before, which wasn't working.
Exactly.
So you have to kind of begin to feel, what does that life look like? Like, if, you know, like, do you want a child? Do you really want that still? You know, if you have a child, you'd have to make the time for it.
Exactly.
You might want to, you know, just work on your own health right now and live very simply, but not in scarcity. Get a part-time job and then let things move slowly.
And just let it unfold.
Right. But you need to make sure that the guy that you're with, the new one, has the same values as you.
And he definitely does. Like, you know, obviously I haven't gotten into like a deep, but just from values and surroundings of his just friends and family. And that's something that's, you know, he truly is on the same page for once. I actually have somebody on the same page with me on that.
And how often do you see him?
I would say like 4 times, like a week. Like, we don't live that far, and it's mostly like we'll do a lot of outdoor things. Like, we bike a lot.
He sounds great.
We're at the park. Like, he doesn't love to be out in bars or scenes or anything. We'll go do dinners. You know, it's very calm. And
that's what it's supposed to be like.
Yeah. And I've never
relationships that are not like that. You're used to the chaos. Look at the other guy who was always needing to go out and all, right? Didn't he always need to go party?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. It should be calm. And it's like, and I describe this also in my book, if it's a relationship that's like the old ones, it'll trigger that kind of love, that abandonment love. And you think you're like, so like learning what a new love is learning to love yourself. And it's also learning this time is giving you enough time so that you can learn to generate that own love from you so that you're actually feeding his love.
Exactly.
And
it's,
so, you know, cool.
It is really, it's just something that's like, you know, for me, it's something I've never really had or experienced. So this is like, just like different, you know, new territory for me. And I just didn't, and that's why I reached out and I was like, I have something really great, but what, you know, what is it with me that's like, wants to push it all away?
That's what your conditioning is. So literally go back to Alchemy of Becoming.
Yep.
It is a guideline exactly for this.
Yeah.
Read the separation chapter and then read like the parts of yourself you want to keep, like make a list. This is who I was. This is what my life was like. And then see how you're recreating it in those blank moments when you go to your mind.
Yeah.
When you're in your heart with this guy, you guys are going on bike rides or you're hiking, you're going out to good lunches, you're not really worried, you're trusting. And that may be more important than what you're supposed to be doing right now. Because if you were like working all the time, you wouldn't have that same ability to do so, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
So you've been wanting to cultivate a healthy relationship, to have a family, and then the universe is finally giving it to you. You know, it's pretty cool.
Right. It's like, I got what I've been asking for, and I guess, this is
scary.
Right. And this is where people like, oh my God, I got it. Now I don't, it's too scary.
Right. And they recreate the chaos. It's just like the women that, do IVF for 4 years, finally get a baby. They're so programmed and conditioned to maintain that neurotic tendencies that they just transfer it on. Yep. So don't transfer on the trauma, the neuroticism onto him. Just like I would tell a mother not to transfer it onto their child.
Exactly.
He's a brand new human to you. And you don't want to do what your husband did to him. I mean, like you having some feelings for your ex-husband who was abusive in so many ways, emotionally abusive, right?
Yeah.
I guess the wrong word, but like selfish.
Yeah.
Don't do that to this new guy by like texting him and being open to something that's not healthy for you.
Exactly.
Like, why would you let him come ruin your joy again?
Yep. Exactly.
Was this helpful?
This was so helpful. Do
you have any more questions?
No, you answered a lot, like where I needed like just clarity on. And I feel like I'm a really good, like, I feel really good.
So don't freak out when you have all this time. Time allows you the flexibility and the joy to go into being. Utilize the time for healing, isolation, and nature. Learn how to go into your being and then allow the universe to unfold what your next steps are, but you have no control over what those are.
Exactly.
Your doing does not create it. It's already planned out for you. Know that.
Oh, yeah.
So try to find a job that is not the repetition of your past. 'Cause I know you're applying to things that you think are your past, but you may find, we don't know, with this guy that you find a part-time job and you just get really happy and then you guys can have the family you've always wanted.
Right, exactly.
And then you have time for that. Because when you're pregnant, you want to be calm. You don't want to do as much. It's like, that's the period like you can go into deep peace. But if you're working, you're going to program that child with the same temperament.
Yeah.
So go back, read my book and those sections, and then text me and you'll have a whole nother understanding of where you're at in the heart opening process.
I will. Perfect.
Okay. Anything else before we go?
No, that was it. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Okay. Text me and let me know how you are in a few days. Okay.
Okay. Bye.
Bye-bye.